enjoy the marble auction? I brought a clip, which is a little teaser for season 5. Some of you may have seen this, some of you may have not. But after the teaser is a clip from the Vietnam episode. So this is the first clip from season 5 of Jump. So enjoy.
We did lights. Anybody lights?
If this creature does exist, we're on its turf. Back up! We gotta go after it.
So you're telling me that we're going vampire hunting?
Whoa, I can't believe that! And you are wearing a garlic necklace.
Now, too, actually. Never convened to prepare.
Something's stalking us in the woods over here.
I heard something moving right up here.
Something breached the surface! There's a huge footprint right there. It's walking. Let's do this!
Is anyone here?
Jesus! What the hell was that? That's the end of the show. It's aliens chat happen.
Destination Trigger. A new season coming this summer. And
the next all-new Destination Truth. Freeze! I got it. I got it. I can see it.
What do you see?
There's something standing up in there. Guys, it looks like it's on 2 legs.
How far away? How far away?
It looks like it's upright. It's moving. It's moving.
Where? Where?
It's moving. Drag it left. Drag it left. Go, 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 go.
Right behind you.
Richie, Katie, we saw it very clearly in the thermals tracking left. We're heading over to it now.
How big is it?
Whatever it was, it was tall and upright. Guys, looks like the river. We have to come through here. Oh, I see something! I just saw it! I just saw something cross over the other side of that bank, right up there. Right there, see where the tree comes down?
Yeah.
I just saw something move up there. I think whatever the hell that was, just cruised right across this river and went right up into the tree line. Go, get these packs off. Get the packs off, let's try to get over there. Come on. I drowned right after that. It's really tragic. So that's a little sneak peek at the Vietnam episode, and it's a really cool season. In the teaser, you see all sorts of weird new tanks and vehicles and jet skis and crazy stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a great season, and with that, I think we'll do some questions here.
Yeah, we have some questions that were submitted to us through Twitter, and then we're going to let you guys come up and ask some questions as well. So we'll just keep this really open and really fluid, okay? So let's start with some of the ones we got on Twitter, and then we'll kick it over to you guys, okay? So, is it a production mandate from Sci-Fi, or does Ryder just have really bad taste in vehicles? You always get stuck with the worst vehicle in whatever country you go to.
It's a little bit on purpose and a little bit by accident. So like, we never want, like every once in a while, you could probably get a better vehicle. Like if we're in Sweden, we could probably get a brand new car, right? So, but we're always looking for things that you know, fit the look of the show. So, in a lot of the developing nations, you know, that's what you get. You get an old banged up Land Rover, you get an old truck or whatever that's on its last leg. Some of these island nations and stuff, like that's what they show up with, you know. But, you know, in places where we could maybe get a better vehicle, we always say, well, you know, make sure it looks kind of rugged, the show is rugged, we want it to kind of, you know, and then sometimes they will just show up, you know, we'll have a local producer in each country, and then I'll arrive and they will bring, like, whatever clunker, you know, they can find at the airport. And we don't really see the cars ahead of time, we just sort of get there and they're there, and yeah, they're almost always terrible. I always joke that Ryder's responsible for all of them. She's not responsible for all of them, but it's easy to blame her.
So, how long typically are you guys out on an investigation? How long does it take to film one episode?
It depends on the story. Usually it takes anywhere from like 4 to 6 days to film a half of an hour. So, you know, often we're only kind of at our final place for one night. Sometimes we're there for more. The 1 hour episodes, like the Vietnam one, we end up, we took, I think, over a week in the field to film that. You know, that's one of the, and that's a question we get a lot, right? It's like, why not spend more time? It's that sort of TV production thing you can't get away from. It's that, you know, I'd love to spend a month in most of these places, but, you know, you have to kind of keep the circuits moving a little bit. So I would say it takes a week or so per segment, so about 10 to 14 days per hour segment to film. It's a cheaper method usually.
Nice. Yeah. Now, so much about the show is travel, and it's about the experiences you have and where you're going, and it's almost like the creature or the experience, you know, it's a part of it, but it's not almost the main focus where travel is. And one of the things in your book, which hopefully you've all picked up and read, right? Okay. One of the most interesting things was to see your level of skepticism about how many of these, you know, cryptozoological animals actually exist.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't try to hide that skepticism too much on the show. I'm open-minded to all of the stories. But, you know, I think that, look, a lot of these stories you can chalk up to folklore and superstition, and in some of the ones where there may be something real, it maybe isn't going to turn out to be quite as dramatic as the locals would describe it. You know, there may be kind of undiscovered little pockets of primates in the world. They may not be Harry and the Hendersons, you know, strolling out of the woods, you know, on 2 legs. But no, we try to approach everything very open-minded, but I think for us, the creature hunt is, as you say, it's part of a bigger mandate for us. We really want the show to be about the search and the journey, you know. We know we're not going to be able to throw a net over Bigfoot at the end of every hour, and so in order that the viewer, and this is something that we really, in the very early years of making the show, the first season, this was something that we really had a lot of push and pull with the channel about, is how much of the show, I mean, the initial idea was, okay, in the first 2 minutes of the show, turn the lights off, you know, and get the astroscope for the night vision stuff up and running and go look for the creature. We really fought hard to kind of create this equal divide between the daytime portion of the show, which is what we call the kind of, you know, that journey portion, and arriving at the destination, because we think, frankly, that the journey part is just as interesting, and it's usually where most of the funny stuff is happening. And also, it gives you context for where you are and the thing you're looking for. And so even if you don't get to the end of the hour and, you know, I don't have Bigfoot in a bag, you feel like you've been somewhere you haven't been before, you've seen something you haven't seen before, and hopefully you feel like that the journey's, you know, given some value to it. So yeah, for us, I think the trip is just as important as the thing we're looking for.
Do you kind of have a plan B? Like, say you're out in the woods and you do encounter the real deal Yeti.
Yes.
What, you know, and it's 10 feet tall and it's coming right at you. Have you ever thought about that situation where you go, okay, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, it's so funny. Everybody, oh, thank you. So demanding. Wait, can I tell a great side? I'm gonna embarrass you. I'm gonna tell a great side story. So when we came in here, I don't know, some of you may have seen me come in here like 15 minutes ago. Devin, who's been amazing all weekend, she's been taking care of me. She goes, okay, come back here. We're gonna go through this door back here, and we're gonna stand over here. And so she opens this door, we go back, and the door shuts, and we're both locked in this scummy stairwell. And she has a little IFB, and she's like, I'm locked in a stairwell. Nobody would come, nobody would answer her, and she's pounding on the door, nobody would open the door. We were there for like 15 minutes. We're sitting down, we're banging on the door in there. So I appreciate the coffee. What were we talking about?
Yep, Michele and Mebe run up on you. What are you gonna do?
Well, we always joke that, like, when you're making the show, like, at its best, during the investigation, you sort of forget a little bit that you're making the show, and it feels like it's like in a little Hardy Boys kind of thing, where you're suddenly kind of Boy Scouts, and you're out there, and you're running around with flashlights. And then when we watch it later, all of us are like, what in the hell are we, like, it's crazy. Like, and so typically I think when the adrenaline's going, it's like you don't think about it as much. But then when something growls and snarls and comes out, everybody sort of, you know, has this moment where they're like, You know, that's where we're stumbling over each other half the time. It's like, we don't have like a guy with a bazooka. You know? There's no like ranger with a bolt action rifle just off camera, you know. So, yeah, we don't have a real good plan B, I guess. Just kind of go for it. We have a good, we always have a good kind of medical plan of action. We usually have a helicopter. If we know where we can get a helicopter, if we're near a city, we have a paramedic with us, and we've had a couple of instances where, you know, riders been stitched up on the side of the road in Vietnam, and so we can get people usually to a hospital if we need to. But in some of the places where there's venomous things, it gets more complicated because you can't really travel around with anti-venom for everything. And so we try to be cautious. It doesn't look like it, but we try to be cautious when we're in places where there's a lot of really dangerous things.
If some of you guys would like to ask questions, you can go ahead and line up right here, and we will start taking those. And
That's hostile.
It's hot.
So I got one more question while
Yes.
we wait everybody to get in line here.
Okay.
Is, you know, as a kid, you know, whenever you're thinking about maybe what you're going to be doing in the future, did you ever think you'd be spending the night in King Tut's tomb and some of the other amazing things that you've gotten to do?
No, and I talk about this in the book, it took me a long time to put together that I should try to work in travel. You know, I've been doing some performing stuff and some acting stuff and some photography stuff, but I was always a travel nut. I kind of always thought in the back of my mind I'd love to do something that involved traveling. But it took me a while to piece together the idea of trying to do it on camera. And so no, I mean, it's been, the last 5 years has been a really amazing journey for me. I didn't expect to be on it, so it's been great. Awesome.
Okay, go for it.
I was just wondering if you could share what cities you're going to in Belize and Guatemala and give a sneak peek of what you're looking for.
Yeah, so you're going to have to bear with me because I'm going to have to sort of remember all of it. So we flew to Belize and drove to Guatemala. So in Belize we were looking for a little jungle creature. I brought this because I knew I was going to have to remember some of this stuff. I'm trying to remember what the creature's name was locally. I don't have it on the sheet. It was a little sort of jungle creature, and it was in the southern part of Belize, in the jungles in the south. And then we drove up, we went to Lamanai, the Mayan ruins in Lamanai, Belize, and then we drove across the border into Guatemala, and the Guatemala story is at Tikal.
Okay.
So we were in Flores, and we do a haunting story at the ruins of Tikal, and these great stories from archaeologists and locals who work there, so they see and hear strange things in the ruins. So a creature in Belize and a haunting in Guatemala.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi.
Hello.
One of the great parts about your show is just the sheer entertainment value. So I was curious, have you ever any thought that maybe looking into recruiting a fan intern that you could boss around and show? So if you're wondering, this is my official request to be that.
Oh,
But I just thought it'd be a really cool episode. It's just, you know, you have yourself a personal intern through the, you know, carry your heavier stuff.
I love that you think that would actually be fun, but you would be so brutal. You have no idea how bad. You would be 3 days into that, like, boy, this guy's a monster.
But it would be great. It would be so worth watching the TV show afterwards.
Yes, it's true. I will say this. You know, you probably noticed in the clip a few new people. Like because we filmed the show, the way we film Destination Truth is a little different than some of these other shows. When we leave the country, we go and don't come back for months at a time. So our camera, the people we work with are sort of specialized in real good outdoor adventure photographers and filmmakers and stuff. So it's a little catch as catch can, and sometimes they're working on Amazing Race or they're working on Survivor. So sometimes you'll see people swap in and out. But you know, Rex, who's our paramedic on DT for a number of seasons, he was a fan of the show, and we needed a paramedic, and he put in an application, and you know, so now he's on the show. We have a new producer on the show this season, Katie, who you know. Is someone that's new to us this year. The problem is we travel so light. We travel with only like 8 people. So each of them really has to be a producer, a camera operator, a sound operator. There's just we're not able to carry additional bodies out there. And so if you can get yourself really quickly through an audio training, you're in the background. All right, there you go. Yes. So video editing. So maybe become a cameraman.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So, but we are always accepting applications.
All right. Off the website?
Give us an email. Yeah,
coffee the rest of the weekend.
I also was going to ask how to be your assistant, but I'll just do that. My other question was, so I don't know if you remember, but you're in Chile and you found some sort of weird alien baby, and then
Yes.
you guys were like, we can't say what this is. I was wondering if you ever figured out what that was.
So here, let me dispel this, right, because this is like, people ask about this all the time. So we were in these like horrendous underground mines, terrifying underground mines in Chile, and we found this like rank, disgusting, stinky, gross carcass of something. And we sort of pulled it out of the ground, and it matched some of the descriptions and things. It was wrapped in this cloth. It was very weird. And it looked to me, I was like, oh, this is like a chicken or something. It had this sort of like kind of bird-like, you know, it looked like a chicken. And so we photographed it extensively, and then we packed it up in an evidence kit. And then when we got back to wherever we were staying, it sort of came down that we were not going to be able to transport this thing. You know, it was too big and dead, and you can't just like throw that on a plane. And what we've done, you know, like we get away with a little hair sample here and there and things like that, but you can't look at carcass, like alien carcass on a, you know, on an American Airlines flight. And so the local authorities were really interested in it. They said, we want to work on it and figure out what it is. And I'm thinking, well, I have all these photos of it, you know, and I know it's going to turn out to be like a turkey. And so, fine, like I don't need to fight too hard for this. They're going to keep in touch. I'm going to have the photos. I'm going to take it to one of my guys, and they're going to tell me in 2 seconds it's a turkey. So then I took it to all of our guys, and like, you know, these scientists, mammalogists, you know, these different people we work with, and they look at it, and all of them are like, I have no idea what that is. Their head was missing, and some of the lips were missing, and they said, it's definitely not a chicken, it's definitely not a turkey. Somebody thought maybe it was a fetal cow, but they couldn't be sure. And then I'm like, oh no, I should have stuck this thing home. And then everybody in Chile was sort of mysteriously like, yeah, we don't have any information about that. So you know, it was sort of dead end. I never really got to the bottom of that. So I have a bunch of unidentified photos.
Well, no, that's great to hear, because we never heard anything else about it. I was like, I have to know.
Yeah, the plot thickens on the mystery non-turkey corpse. I don't know what it is. Maybe an alien, maybe a cover-up, I don't know.
All right. Well, yes, I also will be applying to the
Perfect. Perfect. Great.
So it does bring up a good question, Josh. Like, do you guys do a lot of follow-up from previous investigations? Like, you know, Yeti hair sample, you know, different things that are kind of left a little open-ended with the show, you know, to find out later on. Do you revisit some of those cases?
We stay in touch with the DNA labs that have all of the hair fibers and things like that, and a few of them have followed up with us the past few months, and there was some interesting hits on a couple of the things we found in Bhutan. The footprints we always bring to this guy, Jeff Meldrum up in Idaho, is like the world's foremost footprint authority. But you know, at a certain point, you run into a wall of that stuff. Like the footprint cast is amazing, but it sort of is what it is. There's only so much you can do with it. So we try to stay in touch with people that we have tests being run and things like that. But to some extent, we're left with those questions at the end when it comes to something like a photograph or footprint casting, where you're just not going to get a definitive answer, and so we're left to figure out what to do with all these things.
And I think some of your best evidence was focused on Yeti.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, not to put you out to make a statement or anything, but if you were a betting man, do you think there is a Yeti out there? Bhutan, you know, it seemed like...
It's the story of all the things we've done on DT. It's the one I most want to exist. I love the Yeti legend. I think it's great. I've met so many neat, compelling people up in the Himalayas who just really think they've seen something. And you know, I don't know. I think there are still some discoveries, primate discoveries to be made. You know, a year or so ago, they found an enormous population of gorillas in, I think, in the Congo that nobody'd seen before. You know, and they had to adjust the sort of world population of gorillas based on this find by it's like 1,000 gorillas living in this community in this sort of jungle in the Congo. These places are very hard to get to, and so, you know, the idea that there might be some little speciated populations of primates we haven't found, I think it's certainly possible. The Yeti, I mean, you run into this problem with the Yeti with food. You know, it's very high altitude. There are people living up there. Once you get into the high altitudes where there are no people, there's also no food. So you run into kind of a problem there, but man, I hope it's real. I hope it comes lumbering down out of the Himalayas one day.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What would be your favorite episode?
My favorite episode for me is probably Antarctica, because it was the hardest one to film, and it was a place I wanted to go for a very long time. It's very hard to get to, and so that we got the opportunity to go there in the ridiculous boat that we took to get there. It was a real trial by fire. It was a difficult episode, and then once we got there, just what's over there is so stunning and beautiful, and I felt so lucky to have seen it. That for me, it always sticks out as my favorite episode. Thanks.
I noticed that you take part in a lot of the traditions of the places you go. What would be your most memorable tradition that you took part in?
You know, there've been a lot of them, and some of them we end up airing only a second of, you know, because a lot of them are these long, kind of somber, religious things that you really have to participate in to sort of ingratiate yourself with the people that you're meeting. I can remember in Bhutan, we met with a bunch of monks who invited us into a prayer session and sat with them. And you really, you're an outsider in those environments, but when you get invited in Mongolia as well, I can remember being invited into these nomads into their yurt and sort of sharing a little ceremony with them. And it's just, that's the part of travel that's kind of hard to get to. You know, it's hard to be invited by locals into that world and to get a kind of, to have the curtain peeled back on not the touristy stuff, but those sort of special things that are happening. So I'd say Bhutan and Mongolia, I have very fond memories of that. And in some of the really tribal places, in Papua New Guinea, I can remember participating in stuff with these tribes. The Maasai in Tanzania doing the blood-letting ceremony with the cows. And, I mean, just stuff that's, very foreign to us. But that's some of my favorite stuff on the show. It's a shame we can't feature more of it. It's not very high, impact stuff sitting around sometimes, by a bonfire, but it's sometimes the most special. Sure. Hello.
What was it like working with the guys from Cats?
They are great. They are, I've worked with those guys for, I don't know how many years I've done that Ghost Hunters Live, like 5 years now, I think. They're great. I mean, first of all, I always say to Jay and Grant that I really owe those guys a lot, because when we first started Destination Truth, they were our lead. And the Tax fans, the Ghost Hunters fans are so loyal and so passionate. And I think without having Ghost Hunters in front of us that first couple of years, I don't think DT would have continued. I think we really needed their fans to kind of hang around after the hour, meet me, get to know me, and so I owe those guys a lot. And Ghost Hunters Live is probably one of my favorite nights of the year. It's such a great high wire act for me to be out there on live TV for 6 or 7 hours. And they're just, I mean, I'm sure some folks in this room have met some of them at different events. Like, they're all really nice. Steve Gonzalez is like the nicest guy in the world, and he's just incredibly sweet. They're all really, really good folks. So I love them. I think they're great. Yeah. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
All right. I just had 2 questions for you real quick. The first one would be, what would be, let's say, your most scariest moment on the show? Like when you were just like, oh God, I'm not getting out of here alive.
Roof rips off plane.
And,
that's it. If you're in a plane and then suddenly you're like, I'm outdoors. That's it. It's like, it's over. Like, it's over. That's it.
And then I have to ask this for the website that I work for. What is, in your opinion, the worst comic book movie ever made? Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but we are comic book journey.
I mean, there are some real stinkers, right? Like,
Are there any Marvel or DC executives in the room before we
Make it good, man. I drove 10 hours to get here.
Judge Dredd?
The Shadow.
Who's yelling out? Really bad one too.
The Shadow. Steel.
Something got real angry. Everybody's like,
Oh, yeah, come on.
oh, the first, what was that? And Lee, like, what happened? It was crazy. Right, that was bad too.
Hello, Joshua.
Hello.
Can you tell these people about the magnificent spill that you take during this next season that's coming up? Because I don't know if everyone's heard about it.
Oh, there's some, I mean, Ryder's always good for a few really great falls. I don't think anything's going to beat Ryder falling off that motorcycle.
That was good.
That was great. I take a couple of really bad falls this season. No, I don't want to spoil it. But be assured that this season is filled with all sorts of great slipping and falling off things, nearly drowning and going over waterfalls. The usual team of professionals out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Maybe. Am I? Hey.
I wanted to know if you've ever been honestly scared during an investigation.
Sorry, say it again?
Have you ever been honestly scared during an investigation?
Almost always. No, really. Look, so the scariest stories for me are usually the water ones, right? Because, if you go wherever the story is, you get a bunch of people who say there's a giant snake in this river or there's a sea monster. It's like, you talk to enough people, you're like, all right, these folks saw something, And if it's not a sea monster, it's still a sea snake, a crocodile, so we're always like diving in this murky, horrible water, and I think I'm most afraid of those really murky underwater things where I'm looking for something with teeth, because I'm always sort of half convinced it's gonna fight off your imagination when you're scuba diving down there, you sort of see it coming out of the murk. So yeah, a lot of the time. You're welcome.
Hello, Josh.
Hello. Ghostbuster.
Yeah. You talk about the transportation. What's your most hated form of transportation while filming?
Anybody know the answer to this? Camel.
Yeah. Camels included.
The worst. It's funny. It would be convenient for me to say that just from the Indiana Jones reference, but it's true. Like every time we've worked with them, they've just been totally uncooperative. They bite, they spit, they do whatever they want. They're like the house cats of of beasts of burden. They just don't. But the worst part of it is whenever you try to work with animals, the people who live there, they've got it down pat, right? They can make the horse gallop, they can make the camel do whatever they want, and then the minute I get on it, it's like, it's just like, forget this. This is way too heavy, I'm sitting down. So, camels.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey Josh,
Hello.
you talked about transportation, but what about food? What's the weirdest food that you've tried in these other countries?
I think the worst food I've had is the one that I throw up on camera, where I looked away from camera when it happened, which is balut in the Philippines. And I've had Filipino. Have you had it? No. I've had Filipinos come up to me and they're like, how did you not like that? It is an overdeveloped egg. So it's an egg and they keep it warm, and then when you open it, inside of it, it is no longer an egg. There are bones, there is a beak, there are feathers, it is well on its way to being a bird. And yet it's still kind of gross and placental, and it's and they just eat this whole, and it's sort of smells like it's rotting. It's unbelievable, and it's an aphrodisiac in the Philippines, and people love it, and they sell it in markets, and it's the only thing that, I got it to about here in my throat, and my body was just like, this is not happening. I turned from the camera, and if you watch the episode too, and I'm always sweaty, but I'm caked in this I know it's going to be bad, and my body's just already starting to reject it. That was probably the worst thing, yeah.
So Josh, just wondering, since you're on the show, how long have you been interested in this cryptology and monster hunting?
I've always been really interested in legends, I've always been into travel and kind of faraway places, and so I've always liked the Yeti story is something I've liked for a really long time. But the sort of going out and hunting monsters thing really started with the show. I got this opportunity to go out and go to these places and talk to these people and track this stuff down. So I've only been sort of professionally hunting monsters, I guess, for 5 years or so, but I've had a long-standing interest in the stories. Sure. Hello? Hello?
Ghosts or monsters?
Ghosts or monsters? I think it depends on the ghost and it depends on the monster. The ghost episodes feel very different to film because the way you look for them is a little bit different and the kind of tests that you do are a little bit different. I think for me it's more about where we are. If it's a really fun place and a really, sometimes if you're looking for a creature but it's in like a really bad wet jungle and thorns are everywhere, it's just a long night, But I think it's about the environment, but I'd say probably the monsters. You're welcome.
Thank you for answering your question. My question is more about so the Sci-Fi Channel, did you approach Sci-Fi Channel with this idea of your show, or did Sci-Fi come up to you and say, hey, we got a great gig for you?
Kind of neither, and it's documented well in the beginning of the book. The shortest version is that another producer came up with this idea, pitched the show, they filmed a pilot with a different host. They didn't like the results of that, and so they wanted to find someone else, and I got very lucky, and met with them, and they thought it was a good fit, and then we went and filmed the second pilot, which was the Malaysian Bigfoot episode in season 1, was the first episode we filmed, but I don't think it's the first one that aired. And then that was it. Yeah, so it fell in my lap a little bit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
As an elementary school teacher, I see a lot of children find the spirit of exploration and then watch it grow and then they lose it in the 7th grade. And I was wondering where you found it in yourself and how you were able to keep it going through that.
I love this question because I agree with you, and it's really secretly what we're trying to do on this show, is get people to get excited about travel. I got it from my parents, no question. My mom's English, and my dad, who's retired now, worked overseas my whole life growing up in deep sea diving. He's a deep sea diver and works sort of oil and salvage. So my mom, once a year, would go to England and visit my family in England, and my dad would always be away and coming home from, the North Sea or Dubai or these places that, as a kid, I started looking at maps and seeing stuff. So I think my parents kind of infused it in me. It's a weird thing. It's not just an American thing, but it is particularly noticeable in America, which is that we're such a big country and we're such a diverse country, sort of geographically. We've got deserts and mountains and all those things, and we're sort of bounded by these two big oceans. And I think it's very easy for people here to get a little insulated when it comes to travel. In Europe, it's so much different because these borders are all against each other, and people are naturally traveling. People in Europe often speak multiple. You meet people who speak 2 or 3 different languages. That's very common. In America, somebody speaks 3 languages. It's pretty impressive, So I think it's just easy to forget that the rest of the world is out there. I think that's a great thing about America. It's a comfortable place. We have a lot of amazing destinations right here. But I definitely got it from my parents, and we try to do that, to sort of get people excited about places they've never heard of before, and try to encourage them to keep that spirit of exploration going. Yeah. Very important thing. Glad you're doing it.
You do well, Adam.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. I'm just wondering, do you guys archive all of the findings that you have, like the video, the photos, and the physical things you bring back? And if so, how do you guys do archiving?
We do archive them. We don't have a sort of accessible archive of them. That would be a great project to kind of put a lot of that stuff online and have it be accessible. We have it archived both at the production company and at the channel, and then some of, we were really lucky to have that footprint. One of the footprints we found is down at Disney World, Animal Kingdom. It's on display at the Expedition Everest ride down there. But we do have it archived, but sort of, tucked away in boxes and in catalogs and hard drives. So it would be a good idea to get that stuff a little more accessible.
Are you saying you need an archivist?
Here we go. Maybe. I'll let you know.
It's a job there, right?
Yes. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey.
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Hi. What would you consider to be your most uncomfortable or awkward social / cross-cultural situation you've been in?
It's not on the show. This is one. It's the first. I don't know if it's the. I mean, I've had so many. I don't know if this is the most awkward, but it's the first one I thought I used to date a girl who was not Japanese, but her uncle had married a Japanese woman. And her uncle and his wife were living in Hokkaido, Japan, the very top of Japan. And so we went over there to visit them. And the best way to visit a country is if someone's there that you know. It's a great way. So I thought, oh, this will be a great way to visit Japan. My girlfriend's uncle's wife shows around. She's Japanese. It'll be perfect. And they took us to. We went around Hokkaido and their teachers, and they took us to Sapporo to. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to get a lot of the sort of terminology of this wrong. But there are these kind of. There's a name for them. I can't think of it. It's like a reiku. These sort of traditional Japanese hotels. It's like the tatami mats and the rice paper. It's like, you know, where like all the Kill Bill fights happen. It's that whole thing, right? So, and it was a spa, and so we went there, and I didn't know the uncle very well. I'd never met him. And so we went to the spa, and we split up, men and women, and so I'm off with the uncle, and she's off with the uncle's wife. And we go into this room, and he goes, okay, now we take all our clothes off. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm naked with this guy. And, you know, okay, in Japan, you know, when in Rome, right? And so then we go into this shower area, and there's all these sort of rituals and things you have to do. And they hand me a washcloth that is seriously this big. And he says, okay, now you're supposed to cover yourself with this towel. And then we go through here. And so I'm like holding this towel in front of myself, and we go through this door, and now the spa becomes co-ed again. And it's like 100 Japanese people who like are just so amused at this giant white guy standing there. and they're all like, my girlfriend's there like with like a towel over herself, and I remember sitting in complete silence with this tiny towel for like an hour in this spa, and it was horrible. That's the first one I thought of.
If I may, I actually have an extremely similar story.
Really?
Yeah.
You were there that night?
I was there. There was one other American
I thought I recognized you.
Much shorter, but you know. No, I walked into a Japanese onsen like that, and I had the tiny towel. And yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
Right, absolutely. And I removed it, and like 100 sets of eyes just went.
Yeah. Yes. Nudity, like we're very prudish in America, right? Like nudity's not a really, like you go to other countries, there's some countries that are just nude, kind of like they are fine with nudity. We're very, very puritanical about that here, so.
Thanks a lot.
You can feel my pain. Hello.
Wondering if you had any information about season 2 on DVD?
Yes, I'll give you all the information I have. Season 1 came out on DVD 150 years ago. And then season 2 never appeared. And then the executive that I work with over at the channel, every 4 months I send him an email and I said, hey, what is going on with subsequent seasons of DT on DVD? And then he'll write me back and he'll go, oh yeah, I'm going to shoot an email off now to whoever that person is, like in the DVD division at NBC. And then 4 months go by. And then I send the same email, and then he goes, absolutely, I think there's a plan in the works for that. I'm gonna follow up with whoever. And that's how it goes. So tonight, I will send this email again. It's like that, or I storm the building, like I don't know what to do. I start playing myself, like I don't know what else to do. I think that's part of it, right? It's like it's on iTunes. I know, it's like it's on iTunes and stuff, and I just feel like maybe they're just like, they're selling it online, they're selling it digitally. So, but I will send the email again and say that there was a cry, a demand for these DVDs. So.
Everybody send an email.
Yeah, exactly. I'll do my best.
And then sometime this summer we'll have new episodes.
That's right.
Sometime.
I cannot tell you when that is. I don't know.
Again, send an email.
Yeah, it will be this summer though. I'm sure it will be this summer.
And then one more before your question. We'll just finish up with you guys, okay? So nobody else jump up, and then...
I have a big announcement.
We'll finish off with... Go ahead, thanks.
Anyway, I've always noticed that you're very knowledgeable about the locations and creatures that you're looking for.
Very smart, yes.
Yeah. Who decides the location or the creatures? Who decides on that? And who does all the research?
We side on it, the production company that I work with, we get in a room and we take a big world map and we start with, it's a little bit of a dance because we want to combine a bunch of different things. One, things that are in the news, stories that are relevant and new, and if there have been creature sightings that have been reported or different things that have been reported around the world. And then we also need to kind of do that dance of, well, how do we create a route around the world that makes sense? And it's a sort of complicated airline ticket to figure out how to bounce to each of these places. And then the channel has to approve those things. And sometimes there are some stories that they'll kick back and say, we're not really interested in this one, or we think this is going to be too logistically difficult. And so we kind of have, we'll kind of swap things out on the board and kind of keep moving things around. And we do the research ourselves over at the production company. It's a pretty small team of people that does it. So, we'll start with I'll pitch all the craziest stuff to the channel and see what they immediately reject. They rejected Antarctica for years. Since season 1 I've been saying we should do Antarctica. It just was too complicated, too expensive, and difficult to get there and hard to film. And there's other ones I'll pitch every cycle. I always pitch the Titanic, like Ghost Hunt the Titanic, and they're always like nuts. They didn't want to pitch that. I always pitch Saddam's palaces, or ghost hunting Saddam's palaces in Iraq, and they're laughing out of the room every time. There's always fans in the military. I'm like, it'll be fine over there. So I always start with my fantasy ones, tropical islands, and the Maldives and Seychelles. Then once those all get rejected, we go to our B tier.
What's your favorite Starbucks drink?
My favorite Starbucks drink is that Christmas mocha peppermint thing. Really good.
Hi guys. I have 2 questions. One, since everybody's been talking about the Yeti, but with the Australian Yowie, did you ever find out what was the creature that did all the big time in the trees?
No, we didn't. And and that's sometimes it's like in the case of the Yowie, it's like we didn't find out what it is. I just read recently there were some other sightings of it there, and the great thing about that is it's a great reason to go back, or it's a great reason to keep thinking about it. But yeah, we didn't figure it out yet.
Okay. And my second one's a little bit funny because I always watch your episodes off of Netflix, but since you always pick on the writer with her ear falling or almost falling off the Great Wall of China, but did you ever pay Rex's $5?
What do I owe Rex $5 for?
Because you found that writer was not going to make it down.
Oh, no, I don't think I have. All right. You let Rex know I'm good for it. Are you kidding me? That guy owes me so much.
Hey, Josh. I have a question for you. Travels, what is the most danger you've encountered in a nature sense, and also from the human element, from the natives or something like that?
I think that, there are a couple jungles in the world, and it's usually jungle environments that are the most dangerous. It's the place that humans tend to be the least, other than deep underwater. It's just, the environment is so rigged against you, and it's that sort of Avatar, Pandora thing, where you get, everything is sort of pretty vicious in those deep rainforests. And so, the Amazon is a place that was very hard to film in because there are just so many things there that are naturally dangerous at night, so many nocturnal things. There are snakes in the Amazon that are just, kind of game over snakes, where you just, I would say that, Malaysia, Indonesia, these very sort of dense rainforest environments where they have vipers and some sort of large, predators, those tend to be the places where we, I think, have to exercise the most caution. We've had a number of really close run-ins with bad snakes. We've had snakes at eye level in the trees, and just somebody sees a glint in the trees, and it's like on a path that we're about to walk down, and there'll be a viper just sitting in a tree. And, a lot of that stuff just comes out at night. So I'd say the rainforest environments are the dodgiest. In terms of human stuff, we've been really lucky with that. I had a couple of guns pointed at my face in Senegal. That was off camera. I wanted to put a foot in Senegal, a bit of a country counter. And we were in Gambia, and I wanted to go to Senegal, and our local producer said, if you go down that road down there, about half a mile, you'll be in Senegal. And I'll get out and put my foot on the ground and say I've been to Senegal. And so I go barreling down this road, and there was like a little army checkpost down there that he didn't tell me about. And so a bunch of guys, pointing guns in our face. But I can't think of too many instances on the show where the human element really got out of hand. We were in Thailand when there were some riots during Songkran Fest. It was actually right around this time, a few years ago. And we stayed in the hotel that night. But mostly it's the nature stuff. Yeah. Until they let me go to Iraq. Well,
So overall, the real world is usually much scarier than the monsters and the ghosts that you're looking at.
yes. Yeah, I mean, especially when you're dumb enough to be wandering around at night, with video cameras. But it really is, night makes everything harder, right? You just can't see anything, and so many of these animals come out to prey at night, and it's just, makes everything more challenging.
So I think we're ready for the
big announcement.
Yeah. Are you guys ready?
Really ready? Okay. You're gonna like this. Okay, where do I start? Okay, here's the announcement. Since the beginning of Destination Truth, and we touched on this a couple times, on the panel tonight, one of our real main goals has been to highlight the travel, the journey, the search. For us, that's always been the underlying mission. And we, over the last 4 years, have been really gratified by all of the fans who have written us letters and emails and tweets and said how much that part of the show has meant to them, and a few folks here tonight who touched on that as well. It's really gratifying because, for us, that's why we're doing it. We really want to get people excited about exploration. So, first of all, thank you, everyone in here. I know some folks are tweeting and broadcasting, this tonight. But to everyone really, within earshot who's a fan of Destination Truth, that feedback has just been really meaningful to not just me, but everybody associated with the show. And we have also had a ton of feedback, and again we had it tonight, from people asking, how do we be on the show? How do we physically be a part of this adventure rather than just, watching it at home? And I want everyone to know that we have heard that over the last 4 years a lot. I mean, I got resumes today, and people came up today in the booth and they said, I want to work on the show. We had a few people here tonight say, I want to go work on the show. We have ferried those requests up to the Sci-Fi Channel, and this gets us back into that DVD territory a little bit. And we have talked with them at length about, how do we do this, right? I mean, if our big goal here is to get people excited about travel, how do we get them traveling, And we have talked about contests, we've talked about, we pitched them an idea for a competition version of the show a couple of years ago. We were trying to get a competition version of the show together to find a new team member for the team. And it's been really difficult to do that. And look, it's the Sci-Fi Channel is a big company, and they're part of an even bigger company, and sometimes it's just not simple. There's a lot of considerations that go into contests and things like that. So we just haven't been able to do it. Haven't been able to make it work. And I'm not here tonight to announce that has changed. Take a breath. The Sci-Fi Channel is still a big channel, still a big company, and they're now part of an even bigger company. They're in the cable town world now. And so we have tried, and I just have not been able to get the Sci-Fi Channel to agree to directly involve the fans with our travels. But they can't really stop me from doing it. So here's what I'm announcing. Starting this summer, to coincide with the return of Destination Truth, and as an amends for being off the air for so long, I am going to personally host some very special dinners as a way of saying thank you to our incredibly loyal fans, and all of you are technically invited to these dinners. But just catch. I get to pick the restaurant. So, I will, through Twitter, be announcing a number of dates and times and places, and they may just be a set of coordinates. And if you can make it there, any of you can get to wherever these places are. They will be weird, difficult places. But if you can get there, I will be there. And a great, amazing, you know, once-in-a-lifetime kind of dinner will be waiting for you. On me. And this is not part of Destination Truth. Before my phone, which will start ringing in a matter of moments, with a team of lawyers from NBC. This has nothing to do with NBC, it has nothing to do with sci-fi, it has nothing to do with Ping Pong Productions or Destination Truth. This is me. This is something that I'm going to do as a way of encouraging people to take a trip and go somewhere very unusual for a very special experience. If you make it there, I will also personally guide whoever shows up on a custom tour of wherever we are. So you can have the benefit of me showing you around so you don't get killed by whatever. So we'll call this little experiment, I don't know how many of these we'll do, we'll see if anybody shows up to them. We'll call this little experiment Destination Dinner. And so, in addition, I recognize that not everybody can afford to book a trip around the planet, just have dinner. Though these are going to be some badass dinners. They're going to be cool. And as many of you know, I am a depraved frequent flyer mile hoarder. And just recently, I'm like Ryan Bingham from Up in the Air, if you saw that. Everything I do benefits. I'm earning miles right now, just sitting here. This coffee is earning me. I recently hit a goal number with my frequent flyer mileage account, and I will brag, let's just say it's a nice round number. And I got to thinking that, you know, a lot of the miles in that account are there because of the fans of Destination Truth, and without the fans of Destination Truth, I would have far fewer miles sitting in that account. It only seems fair that you should have the opportunity to try to steal some back. Nice. So at each of these dinners, one seat will be reserved for a fan who will get a free dinner and also free airfare to wherever the dinner is. You know, I've spent the last almost 5 years now devoted to travel adventure television, and one of the things I've said in a million interviews is, you know, we always want the show to feel like the viewer is there with us, and I just want to give everybody the opportunity to actually be there. And so, more information to follow. Certainly, you will. There'll be some official eligibility and rules and requirements that will follow this announcement. But suffice it to say, you're going to need a passport. And you will need to follow me on Twitter, @Joshua Gates, which will be the portal that we'll use to announce all this stuff. So if you're not following me on Twitter, now would be a good time to do that. I didn't want it to just be giving away a couple of free tickets, because that really limited to just a few people. And so I know not everybody will be able to kind of go under their own steam, but for those who can, I promise it will be a really interesting, fun trip, and I'll try to schedule them around, you know, airfare sales and things like that to make it a little bit less of a burden. But I look forward to seeing all of you, or some of you, again in a very far-flung place, and to raising a glass to you and sharing a meal with you and breaking bread, and thanking you personally for all your support over the last 4 years. And so thank you guys so much for coming out to CTV to see me, and enjoy the rest of the day. It started at 6 o'clock, but if anyone doesn't know about it yet, this Marvel auction that's going on with the profiles and history guys, it looks really, really cool, so I would encourage everybody to go over there. Joe Madalena from Sci-Fi's Hollywood Treasure is running it. He's great. The Marvel stuff's amazing from Captain America, so if you need somewhere to be right now, that's where I'll be buying weird stuff.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.